Hello, history lovers. Emerging Revolutionary War coming to you live right now. We are in Menotomy, which today is Arlington, Massachusetts, and we're at the site of the Black Horse Tavern. The regulars are out tonight. Yes, people are loving it. But so we are here this night in Menotomy. We're at the site of the Black Horse Tavern. This is where the Committee of Safety was actually meeting. Now, one thing we may have mentioned before is that the British had patrols they had sent out earlier that evening to try and stop the alarm from going out from people like Revere and Dawes. Some of these British officers that had come out earlier were spotted by the people, especially here, and when they saw these British officers riding out, here at the Black Horse Tavern, one of the men here was Elbridge Gerry. Now, you probably know Elbridge Gerry's probably most famous for his post-war time period, where he changed some lines on the map, and today we call it gerrymandering. But his name wasn't pronounced Gerry; it was actually pronounced Gary. But Elbridge Gerry was here, so he's going to actually write a note and send it off to try and warn Hancock and Adams that the British were coming out. And that note is going to get there to them up at Lexington, and so they're going to be somewhat notified that something is afoot this evening. Gerry and some other men are here at the Black Horse Tavern when early in the morning, about 3 in the morning, is when, coming up the road, the British column, the British troops start coming up here. Gerry and a couple of his other fellows, they actually go out the back door. And in this area back here, there was a cornfield, and they're actually going to hide out in the cornfield in their underclothes as they wait for the British column to actually move out of the town. But I'll turn it over to Billy to talk about the British here.
Yeah, so as for the British column, where we last left them, they were on the shore at Lechmere Point, getting ready to march on their way towards Concord. When they arrive here in present-day Arlington, Menotomy, they're about 5 miles into their journey, so only about a quarter of the way to Concord. Now, by this point, they've covered that 5 miles in about an hour. You can imagine after standing around for several hours down there at Lechmere, they're already exhausted. They're soaking wet. They're marching on these muddy roads through the darkness. Nobody knows what the actual mission is. You can imagine the confusion that is going on in the ranks. But when they get here to Menotomy, they begin knocking on doors, trying to figure out what's going on, asking around, some of them where Hancock, where Adams is. Obviously, the people in town are not going to be so welcoming of them. But this is the point where Lieutenant Colonel Francis Smith is going to allow his men to get a breather. They will rest. They're going to kill some more time. Think they're already several hours behind schedule by the time they begin their march. And here, they're going to lose more time on the route towards Lexington, on the route towards Concord. But it is during this time, while they're here in Menotomy, they realize that this mission they're on, the secrecy of it, has passed. Up ahead, down the road, they hear alarm bells. They can hear sporadic musket firing, signaling the militia. So Lieutenant Colonel Smith is going to send a message back to Thomas Gage in Boston, pleading for him to send reinforcements. So you can imagine that Smith at this moment is beginning to realize that something could occur, that there might be hostilities down this road. So while his men are still getting ready and they're getting back into their ranks, he's going to send several companies of light infantry forward ahead of the rest of the column under his second-in-command, Major John Pitcairn of the Royal Marines. Now, back in Boston, things are going to fall apart at the communication level because it's late. The officers who are in charge of getting this relief column are sleeping. They're out and about in town. The Royal Marines that are ordered forward as well under Pitcairn, his adjutant, does not give a message to a commanding officer because Pitcairn is out here with Lieutenant Colonel Smith. But Pitcairn's men will move forward ahead of the rest of the column, and eventually they are the ones who are going to engage with the Lexington militia on the green. But while the British are stirring, trying to be as quiet as possible, clearly they are not the only ones who are awake here in town.
Yeah, and as the British column continues to move out, people in around this area in Menotomy, a lot of the men are preparing, getting cartridges made, making musket balls, and really kind of preparing for what they think might escalate into some sort of conflict. And we're going to be back here in about 12 hours or so, and as the British, as they're retreating back from Lexington and Concord on their way back to Boston, this is going to be the scene of some of the heaviest fighting during the entire day. Menotomy becomes a real bloody, vicious fight that's going to happen through the streets here. But at this time, like I said, the British column's heading out. We're only a few miles from Lexington, so the next time we're coming to you, we're going to be in Lexington, so stay tuned.